Hello, all my pickle friends. Welcome to another episode of Inside the Pickle Jar. And today I really want to talk with you. It's actually an extended conversation, and I have a lot of notes on my phone, so I will be looking at my phone. I know sometimes if you've watched this podcast before on YouTube, you probably see the reflection in my glasses, but I do make a lot of notes and do some research ahead of time. But this is going to be maybe a next level conversation about executive function. And executive function is a pretty hot topic if you're neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD specifically. You have some struggles. I have many clients who have some executive function challenges in their mind, whether it's staying up too late, and not being able to get up the next day at a reasonable time. You're just too tired, because I find many neurodivergent people, myself included, tend to stay up until 2 a.m. doing stuff. I don't know if it's fear of missing out or FOMO, or if it's just something that you're just in the zone and you're really enjoying what you're doing and you don't want to stop, and making yourself go to bed becomes a challenge. And I've talked a lot about how this impacts us on a daily basis, and it's really an emotional and very human, practical conversation. But I would really like to reframe executive function from being a problem of discipline and more centering on learning how to self-trust and building some of the scaffolding and having more of a compassionate structure around it. I've even done a video on my Patreon about my struggles getting ready in the morning and why I procrastinate against it and how I get distracted with the laundry. So if you're a member of my Patreon, you can watch that video, and I'll probably do an update to that because some things have changed with my getting ready in the morning that have made it much easier for me to get motivated to do it. And we'll talk about how I did that, and maybe you might find that helpful. But I know that as I focus on, for example, let me just back up. When my husband goes on a business trip, I tend to fall back on my habits of turning on the TV when I go to bed, and then I will fall asleep watching TV, and then I will wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with the TV on, and I know I didn't sleep well up until that point because the TV was going and the lights were on. And to get really good deep sleep, it needs to be kind of dark and quiet and time for you to just go to sleep. And then waking up to bright lights and having to turn everything on and coming fully awake. And before I met my husband, there were several years where I was single, and I'm in my 40s and 50s, and I'm developing these poor sleep hygiene habits of watching TV before I go to bed. And I really knew that I needed to make a change with that, and my husband has been really helpful in guiding me to, at least if we go to bed later, I'm deep sleeping. And he also encourages me to nap, because sleep is so important for your body and your brain and recovery if you're physically active. And you do need to decompress and let your brain unwind. And so I just want you to know you're not alone. I spoke of clients who not only do they struggle with staying up too late, but they struggle with eating food properly, or eating healthy food, or eating at a regular time and nourishing their body with something. I also had those problems, especially when you're single and you're struggling with not eating tortilla chips and honeycomb cereal and burritos and hot dogs. You really need to nourish your body. But it's so easy when you really want to do other things to find alternatives that aren't so time consuming. And so I would like for you to think about executive function, not something that's associated with discipline or just willpower, but let's talk about how it can be self-leadership. So executive function, what it really means in everyday life is just doing the things that a lot of people do very regularly. They get up, they take a shower, maybe they work out first, they have a little bit of a regimented schedule, and it's sort of a misnomer for autistic people that we are very regimented around a schedule and that we don't like change. I think generally speaking, it isn't so much about change, it's about unanticipated events that we did not practice and we didn't think about and we didn't have prior knowledge, and then it's a surprise and we're caught off guard by the things that have popped up. So it isn't that we have this hour by hour schedule that we follow. It's more about being able to anticipate when things are going to be different than what we thought they were going to be, because many of us rehearse our day, we rehearse conversations, we rehearse events, and then when something is different from what we've rehearsed, then it becomes problematic. So if you think about executive function, the showering, the eating properly, the washing of clothes, the sleeping, if you think about all of that, and you start thinking about how do I do executive function in a way where I'm building self-trust and I'm building this framework around self-leadership. So I know that there are some of you out there that are still, you feel guilty that you aren't showing up like normal humans, and I do invite you to not refer to them as normal humans. Their brains are just wired differently from yours, and it's fine. The idea that there should be guilt around your ability to do some of the things that you feel like the general population does, and you might be surprised that how little the general population actually does perform some of these things. But intellectually, you know that in order for you to function as a healthy human, that maybe you don't want to show up in front of other people where your hair smells, or you have body odor, or you've gained too much weight because you've eaten all the wrong things and snacked, or maybe you've lost a bunch of weight. I know for me personally, I starve my stress and I eat my joy. And for other people, they eat their stress and they starve their joy, or at least they modulate their food much better and their diet better. So there's a lot of approaches that you could take, but generally speaking, maybe your parents did this, maybe you have a spouse or a partner who does this, that makes you feel guilty because you don't go to bed at a normal time. I can remember my dad wandering the house until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, falling asleep on the couch, watching all golf shows, watching reruns. He did drink quite a bit, and so sometimes there was a lot of alcohol involved. And my mom was not that kind of person at all. She would go to bed at the regular time every day. She would, right around 10 o'clock, she'd go and take off her makeup, get ready for bed, have her routines, get into bed, and then the next day she'd get up at the same time and prepare breakfast at the same time. And she was very, very much regimented. And I know that there was a lot of guilt that she put on my dad because she just thought that he was not behaving the way, again, normal humans. She felt like he was being irresponsible. Now, he was very smart. He was an engineer. He worked for Pratt & Whitney, and he was a EV welder, not the welder himself, but he knew how to fix the machine. He designed seats for the airline. He was part of the new seat designs that came out with all of the Pratt & Whitney Pratt and Whitney Airlines. And so he had made quite a name for himself, but he was still this very reclusive and I would also say quirky adult, as you might think if you think of someone like Tesla, or if you think of someone who, like Hawking, any of them that were hyper intelligent. They also were very quirky and may go days or weeks without showering because they're just in the throes and they're in the zone. And there was not much discipline that he had around his executive function. And I can remember, even as an adult, watching him struggle with some of these things. So when you build a compassionate structure and you reduce the shame, you can build more confidence around making potentially some changes, because you're not coming from a place of guilt. You're coming from a place of, I care about myself, I trust myself to take care of myself, and I will have some self-leadership. And you can sort of embrace the person that you are, and maybe today doesn't work. Maybe it didn't happen for you today, but then you try again the next day. And you can also look at it in the framework of an entire week. You can also look at it at the framework of looking at it as an entire week. And how did I perform this week? I will be doing some work around this Commit 30 planner that I have. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm holding up this planner, and I will have I'm going to be recording how I prep my Commit 30, despite the fact that it is deep into January and I haven't done anything with it yet. So I've had a really busy month with my day job and with my coaching within my day job, and then also with the recording and my podcast and everything that goes on outside of my day job. So it's been a very busy January for me, and I'm going to give myself grace. I've just started putting a few tabs on this planner, but I'm going to get caught up, and I'm going to show myself some self-leadership and get myself back on track. I think that's the important thing, is getting back on track, not punishing yourself and not giving up because it feels like I just can't do this. Just consider it a tiny setback, and then we can get back on track. So I want you to think about, what can you do when you start getting yourself where you would like to be, and as I said, getting back on track. We can do a couple of things. And so here's how I plan to tackle getting on my Commit 30 planner. Also, I'm a big fan of the 12-week year, and I'm trying to incorporate both of those things. But it doesn't mean I have to start January 1. I did have that goal. I did want to start January 1. But events happened, and it doesn't mean I give up altogether. It means I step back and reevaluate where I am. And then I build some micro steps in. And because I have all of my listeners out there who are watching and listening to this podcast, I feel like I have some camaraderie with you, and I'm sharing these things with you, and it gives me some accountability. And I will say, if you also want some accountability and you want some support, my Patreon is all about community and building that for the neurodivergent community. I really feel a lot of empathy. I know the struggles. I'm almost 60. It's taken me a long time to get to a place where I wasn't so hard on myself and felt so guilty and shame around procrastination that I would do. And so if we look at, let's talk about the planner, okay? I'm behind. We're 3/4 of the way into January, and there's our pages here that talk about your goals for your spiritual health, your personal goals, goals for your home, goals for your finances. And I keep piling up hobbies. I've picked up an interest again in calligraphy and lettering, in journaling, in sketching, and those have brought in some distractions. But that doesn't mean I can't incorporate them in creating my planner and getting back on track with it, because I do have some big goals. And so I'm going to take these new hobbies that I'm very much interested in and incorporate them into my planner using my lettering and calligraphy in my journal for practice, and then also setting that as one of my goals. How good do I want to be at calligraphy and lettering, and making those some of my artistic goals? And then I can share them with you on this. So as I go through my planner, I will be making some micro steps and some micro goals in learning how to do things and get things accomplished. One of the other things that I do frequently is I use my phone to set alarms. I use my Outlook calendar and my Google calendar. I have them married on my phone so that I get reminders that these are the things that I wanted to accomplish. I have not been really great about it in January, again, because I'm giving myself grace in making sure I do great work with my day job. It's been very important that I show up and do things well, and that I can pat myself on the back and congratulate myself. I know that my priorities were right in making sure that the extra hours I had in a day were spent doing my day job really well. And I'll have time to get back to the planning and the goal setting for my Patreon and for all of you, my podcast listeners. So if you think more about shifting to self-leadership and saying, what if you were your boss and you're talking to yourself about encouraging an employee, also you, to rethink how you're approaching your day-to-day life. So if, for example, let's just take one thing. You're not going to bed well, and you're staying up until 2 a.m., and then you can't get out of bed until 9 a.m., and then you feel like the day is gone, and maybe you've missed a meeting, maybe you didn't get to participate in something you wanted to because it started early, or maybe your workout didn't start when you wanted it to start. Then what would you say to yourself if you were your boss and you're a gracious boss? You give yourself some breaks and say, what were the things I did well? And you're giving yourself a performance review. So you look back and you say, well, last week didn't go very well. I went to bed late 5 days of last week. And maybe you track this on a calendar. That's probably your best way to say, okay, I went to bed at 2 a.m. on this day. I went to bed at 2 a.m. on that day. I went to bed at 10 p.m. on this day. And you can say, so you got it right 1 day this week, or you got it right 3 days this week. That's showing improvement. What can you do to continue to show improvement on getting to bed on time? And build in rewards. So let's say your favorite thing in the whole world. I had a client, her favorite thing was to have pancakes for breakfast. And it wasn't that she made them, she bought them frozen and she heated them up. But when she would get up at a regular time, and a time that she could get up and fix breakfast, she would reward herself with having pancakes. When on the days that she got up too late because she was up too late, then she knew all that she could have to eat was maybe a protein bar or cereal bar. So it gave her something to look forward to, and it was a reward. So she would have grace for herself. I would show grace for her and say, okay, this didn't go well, but tomorrow is a new day, and let's start over and let's reset. And let's think about, instead of just being hardcore discipline and I'm just not disciplined enough, and punishing yourself and beating yourself up for what you didn't get accomplished. Let's focus on what you did get accomplished. I did go to bed at 10 p.m. one night, and I really felt so much better. And then start thinking about, what are the triggers for me staying up too late? Am I starting a movie that's a 2-hour movie and I started it at 9:30? Maybe I think about, what are the things that are keeping me up late at night? Is it that I start playing a game and I don't start playing it until 10 p.m. when I should be going to bed? What are the things that are giving you FOMO and you're afraid that you're going to be missing out? What are you missing out on? Think about the FOMO you might have in the morning because you've missed out on some things. And maybe turn things for yourself and giving yourself an opportunity to really think about how you can set micro goals. You can set gentle reminders. You can join my Patreon for accountability. There are also apps out there. I'm beginning to use Finch, and I hope that I can use Finch within my Patreon, and we'll have micro goals within our own community that we will set to see how many days a week we can do what we thought we were going to do. For example, I try to take my athletic greens every day because I have trouble digesting food, and I know that I need these micronutrients in order to be healthy. So just as I begin to close this conversation around executive function, I invite you to not think about this as being a discipline problem or a willpower problem. Think about it as developing self-trust within yourself and trusting that you'll be good to yourself and you'll be kind and you reset on a regular basis. Also, think about how you can show leadership to yourself. These are the things that we're going to accomplish for this week. I want to eat 3 healthy meals. And what are the things that I can do to eat those healthy meals? Maybe it's subscribing to food delivery service that provides you with a healthy breakfast and dinner 3 times a week. And you invest in those things for yourself. Or you learn to do food prep on Sundays. And you buy great containers and you plan 3 meals and you just start small. And the more often you can do these small steps, the more you build self-trust in yourself and the more you show leadership for yourself. And sometimes it does take accountability, but it isn't accountability where someone shames you because you didn't do the things. What I hope to do within my Patreon is to provide a place to congratulate you as you make these small steps and you keep moving forward in just tiny increments. If you only accomplished what you set out to do once, and you only did it once this past week, we want to congratulate you and be supportive of you did it at least once. And if you did nothing, then find a place in my Patreon where we just say, let's reset. Let's start over. It's going to be okay. We'll get back on track. And it is a process. Everybody's working on something. I would invite you to also not judge your insides by other people's outsides. Just because it looks like somebody's always put together, you maybe are only seeing the very best version of themselves that they put out there for you to see. Maybe it's Facebook or Instagram. Maybe it's this podcast. You're watching a video and you think, she always looks so put together. She doesn't look neurodivergent. And I'm not sure what looking neurodivergent would be. But I can say that it is much later in the morning than I would care to admit before I'm actually getting myself together and recording this for you. But I wanted to show up well for you, and so I put myself together in order to record this. And I made sure that I ate something, but I can't take full credit. My husband made our breakfast today. And I just want you to know that it takes a community for all of us to become better versions. Nobody evolves in a vacuum. And it does require community and people and support and not guilt and shame. It's not pressure. It's holding each other up, because I do believe that we evolve and how other people see us And if we all hold each other in high esteem, I believe that we will grow and evolve and become the best versions of ourselves. So all my pickle friends out there, I hope that you show yourself some love and compassion, show yourself some grace, start to build some self-trust, and start to develop self-leadership. You can do this. We can get there. Even if it's one day a week, make it then later 2 days a week. Set goals for yourself, but be gentle. So I offer big briny hugs from inside the pickle jar, and until the next episode, please be well.